Today, we're diving into a pretty serious economic warning from a major global figure. And look, the prediction is that a financial crisis is coming that can make 2008 look like a walk in the park. So yeah, let's get right into it. And this is the quote that really stopped us in our tracks. It's from George Yeo, and he says the next global rebalancing is going to dwarf the 2008 crisis. Now that's a huge claim. So let's unpack who's actually saying this, and more importantly, why.
All right, so for our first section, we're calling it a shocking financial prophecy. This is where we're going to dig into who's sounding this alarm and really try to wrap our heads around the sheer size of what he's predicting.
So the man behind the warning is George Yeo. And what you need to know is he's not some fund manager trying to make a splash. Nope, he's a former foreign minister, a strategist, a guy who's known for looking at the entire global system, all the moving parts, and crucially, all the ways it could break.
Just to put this into perspective, we all remember 2008. That was called a once-in-50-years event. What Yeo is suggesting here is that the next big one could be a once-in-a-century catastrophe. We're not just talking about a market correction here, he's talking about a full-on systemic reset.
So that brings us to our next section, the case for the crash. Okay, so why? What are the cracks in the foundation that would lead someone like him to make such a wild forecast? Well, it's not just a gut feeling. It's based on a whole set of risks that have been quietly building for years. The argument basically is that the global economy is sitting on a powder keg. For years, central banks just kept printing money, flooding the system with easy cash. This made the markets totally dependent on bailouts, which just encourages crazier and crazier risks. At the same time, debt, government debt, global debt, is at an all-time high. There's no safety net left. And here's the kicker. Unlike 2008, the world's leaders aren't really playing nice anymore. The G20 is called dysfunctional, and with all the protectionism, you can't count on countries to team up and save the day like they did back then.
So how does this all go wrong? Well, imagine this chain reaction. It just takes one trigger, and suddenly all that easy money, that liquidity, vanishes. Poof, gone. When that happens, asset prices don't just fall, they collapse violently. And because everything is so connected and fragile, that shock could spread through the system like wildfire. Now for our third section, the AI bubble bears. You might be thinking, okay, that sounds bad, but it's all kind of abstract. Well, is it? George Yeo's warning is pretty unique, but he is definitely not alone in feeling pessimistic. There's a whole chorus of market experts pointing to one area where all this risk seems to be bubbling up: artificial intelligence.
So is this just one guy's opinion? Not even close. There's a growing feeling that at least one part of the market has completely detached from reality. And you guessed it, a lot of people think it's the insane boom happening in AI.
And the concern is coming from all corners. You've got GMO, which has a 40-year track record of calling bubbles, saying this is a classic one. You have Ray Dalio calling it an early-stage bubble that's getting super fragile. Of course, there's Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short. He's actually betting against major AI stocks. And even a consensus of analysts is pointing to a potential 30% drop in the S&P 500 by 2026. And speaking of Michael Burry, he's predicting a truly massive downside for some of the biggest names in AI. We're talking a potential drop of anywhere from 35 to 70%. I mean, that is just a staggering number that shows you how insanely overvalued he thinks these stocks are.
Okay, with all these warnings flying around, it's pretty easy to feel a little bit anxious. But this is where the conversation pivots from just predicting doom and gloom to something way more practical: preparation. This last section is all about building a mindset of readiness, no matter what happens.
And this, right here, is the key takeaway. The goal isn't to be a psychic and guess the exact date the market will crash. That's impossible. The goal is to get yourself ready. It's a huge shift, right? It's about moving from being a fortune teller to being a strategist. So the message is crystal clear. Forget about trying to pinpoint the exact moment a bubble will pop. That's a fool's game. Instead, you've got to focus on what you can actually control, the achievable goal, making sure you are ready to act, not just react, when things get crazy. So what does being prepared actually look like? Well, it means having cash reserves, what they call dry powder, ready to go. It's about getting psychologically ready, training yourself to stay cool when everyone else is panicking. It means having a real plan to buy when assets go on a massive sale, and understanding that, believe it or not, huge crashes are often the biggest opportunities for long-term wealth. So, this whole explainer really just boils down to this one simple, powerful question. The endless debate over who's right and when it'll happen, it's just noise. It's a distraction. The only thing that really matters is your own personal readiness. So let me ask you, are you ready?